I'm going to be talking to you guys about factoring and solving quadratic equations. If we can remember from our previous lesson, we were foiling. So what we were doing is we were taking the first term times our first term, and we got x squared. We get our outside term plus 4x, our inside term plus 3x, and our last term plus 12. If we simplified our like terms, or combined our like terms, we got x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay? Well, what we're doing today is we are going from this to this. We are doing the exact opposite of what we were doing in our last lesson. Okay? So how we do that is we look at this first thought. Okay? We want to know what times what will give us this number right here. Okay? And we know that that is an x and an x. Okay? The next place we're going to look is the last term. Okay? We want to know what times what will give us this number, and that also when we FOIL, when we do our outside times our inside, will give us this middle number. Okay? So if we look at how we will do that is we will look at the factors of this last term. And if you look on your factor sheet, we know that the factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. Okay? So I'll give you a little hint right here. More often than not, our solutions, the ones that will work, are our factors that are the closest together. So right now we see that's a 4 and a 6. So we'll try plugging in a 4 and a 6. Okay? We can do a 4 here and a 6 right here. So like I said, when we FOIL, we want our outside times our inside to equal our -2. So if we do that, we will get 6x and a 4x need to be equal to a -2x. Okay? Well, how do we make it so we have a 6 and a 4x is equal to -2x? We need a -6 right here and a +4 right here. Well, where did our 4 come from? Our 4x, it came from this one. Where did our -6 come from? It came from this one. Okay? So there we went from our quadratic to our factored form. Okay? Let's try another one. If we have, again, we're going to look at our first term here. Where did this come from? It came from the x squared that we know is an x times an x. The next place we're going to look is our last one. So we need the factors that add or subtract to get 7. So our factors are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. Okay, let's try a 2 and a 5. We factor here, or distribute for our outside. We have 5x and a 2x need to be 7x. Well, how do we get these to be a 7x? A +5 and a +2. Okay? So one more to try. If you look here, x and x are factors of 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Okay? How are we going to get them to add up to being -9? Well, let's look at these. A 3 and a 6. We multiply the outside, 6x and a 3x need to be -9x. How do we get these to be -9? A -6 and a -3. -3, -6. Okay? Why don't you take a second, pause the video, try this for yourself, and when you got it, I'll come back and go through them with you. Okay, hello. We are going to look at our first first term, which is an x and an x. Our factors of 9, 1 and 9, 3 and 3. Okay, if we try those here, if we try 3 and a 3 first, and distribute 3x and a 3x, need to be 8x. Can we get a 3 and a 3 to be 8? Not this time. Okay, so those didn't work. So let's try 1 and 9. We multiply again, we have a 9x and a 1x, need to be an 8x. Can we get a 9 and a 1 to be an 8? We have a plus 9 and a minus 1, and the 1x came from here, and the 9x came from there. Okay. Let's try this one. Our first term came from the x. We have an x and an x. And now we need to look at the factors of 48. We have 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8. Okay? Again, let's try the ones that are the closest together, because those work the most often. So we have a 6 and an 8, and when we multiply we have an 8x, and our inside term a 6x, and these need to equal 2x. How do we get these to be equal to 2x? We have a plus 8 and a minus 6. Where did those come from? The minus 6 came from here, and the plus 8x came from here. Okay? Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is take it one step further and solve. So you know that from our previous lesson, if we had x plus 3 times x plus 4 was equal to 0. Now remember that when we solve, we need to have 0 on one side of the equation. Otherwise, we're not solving. Okay? So again, from our previous lesson, we had a little shortcut on how to solve two factors, right? We knew that if we just took the opposite of what was inside here, and when x is by itself, we could say x is equal to negative 3. And for this one, x is equal to negative 4. Because we want to know what value of x, when multiplied, these two, is equal to 0. And that would be x is minus 3 and x is negative 4. Okay? So if we start from here, all that's different is we need to get from here to here. And then you know how to do the rest, right? Okay, so first, we're going to start out just how we have been all day. We look at our first term. Well, what times what gets us our first term? X and x. Next, we look at our last term and our factors of our last term, right? We have 1 and 27 and 3 and 9. Let's try 3 and 9 first. 3 and a 9. If we distribute and multiply our outside, 9x times our inside, 3x, need to be 6x. How do we get these to be 6x? With a positive 9 and a negative 3. Where did these come from? Negative 3x and a positive 9x. Okay? And our one step further that we weren't doing before, we need to solve. So when x minus 3 is 0 and x plus 9 is 0. Okay, if we solve for x here, we have move 3 to the other side, we have x is equal to 3. We move 9 to the other side, x is equal to negative 9. Okay, and those are our solutions. Those are our answers. Okay, I have one more to try. Okay, remember we needed 0 on one side. Okay, is 0 on one side? No. So we need to move it to the other side. So if this to the other side, that's what we get, right? Now it's just like what we've been doing, okay? We look at our first term. What did we get here? What did we multiply? A y and a y. And our factors of 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Okay? Next, how would they add or subtract to get 8? If we look at 4 and 5, can we add or subtract 4 and 5 and get 8? So let's try our next one. Let's look at our 2 and our 10. If we stick a 2 and a 10 here, and distribute again, we have 10y and a 2y need to be an 8y. Oops. Okay. How do we get this to be an 8y? A positive 10 and a negative 2. Okay. If we do our shortcut and just take the opposite of what's inside here, we have y is equal to 2 and y is equal to negative 10. Okay? And those are our solutions. Okay? Why don't you take a second and try these by yourself? And when you're done, press pause right now, and when you're done, press play, and we'll go over them. Okay, hello again. We are going to try these. So, again, the first place that we look is our x squared. What times what is x? Is x squared, I'm sorry. X and an x. Now we'll look at our factors of 16. That is a 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Okay, let's try these. Our 4 and a 4, if we distribute and we get a 4x and a 4x, need to be a 6x. Can we do that? No. So let's try our next one. You know that these, oopsies, those don't work. So now let's try our 2 and our 8. We have a 2 here and an 8 here. And distribute. 8x and a 2x need to be 6x. Can we get an 8 and a 2 to be 6? Plus 8 and a minus 2. Well, where did these come from? A plus 8 over here and a minus 2 right here. So now we have our factors. And now we just need to solve. X is equal to 2. And x is equal to negative 8. Okay? And our last one that we're going to try is this one. Well, 0 is not on one side, right? So we need to move it over. X squared minus 28 minus 3x is equal to 0. Is that in the form that we're used to seeing it? No. So we need to rearrange it, and in order for us to factor, it needs to be our x squared term, and then our x term, and then just our constant, or our numbers with no x's in it. And then this looks like something we can factor, right? Okay, so we'll start again. Our x, our first term, x times x, and our factors of our last term, oops, this needs to be equal to 0. Our factors of our last term, 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. Okay, let's try our 4 and 7. Or that'll go here, 4 and 7. We distribute and multiply, 7x and a 4x need to be a negative 3x, right? How can we get these to be a negative 3x? We have a negative 7 and a positive 4. Where did that come from? The negative 7 came from here, and the positive 4 came from there. All right, our one final step is to solve for here. X is equal to negative 4, and x x is equal to 7. Okay? I hope that wasn't too bad for you guys. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We'll be more than happy to help you.